Good evening. My name is Carlos Rodriguez, and I am the Community Organizing Director for LA at Innovate Public Schools. Welcome to our LA Unified Candidate Forum series. At Innovate, we believe that feet are a source of power, and I am so excited that your feet and your hearts brought you here tonight and will bring you to the polling booth. I am also excited that we are hosting the candidates for Board District 5. Let's give them both a round of applause. Before we begin, we want to take a moment to acknowledge that yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day. This day, yes, this day honors the rich history, cultures, and contributions of Indigenous communities. It's an opportunity to recognize the resilience, wisdom, and influence of Native peoples, while also reflecting on the lasting impact of colonization on their lands and lives. My hope is that yesterday's Indigenous Peoples Day was a chance to reaffirm our collective commitment to justice and to celebrate the enduring strength of Indigenous communities today. One of my favorite poets, Joy Harjo, who was our first Native American poet laureate, ends her beautiful poem, Talking with the Sun, with the following stanza. Though I was not at home, bundling up the baby to carry her outside, I carried this newborn girl within the cradle board of my heart. I held her up and presented her to the sun so she would be recognized as a relative, so that she won't forget this connection, this promise, so that we all remember the sacredness of life. That is why we are here today, to entrust whichever candidate wins for Board District 5 with the sacredness of our little ones, and not so little ones. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dalia Velasco, and I am with the Alliance for a Better Community, and we're happy to be hosting you here tonight. I want to echo the sentiments that Carlos shared earlier on you all really taking your power to come and educate yourself on the candidates running for the Board District 5 seat. Really want to congratulate you on using that power tonight. I want to draw your attention to the slide deck over there. And before we get started with the night, before we're going to hear a lot about Board District 5 and the vision that these two candidates have, I wanted to kind of paint the picture of who BD5 is, or Board District 5. Board District 5 is a vibrant, diverse community stretching from Northeast LA through neighborhoods like East Hollywood, Eagle Rock, Koreatown, and Southeast LA, or CELA, encompassing cities such as Vernon and Southgate, as well as parts of South LA. It's a sprawling area home to people from all walks of life, and tonight we gather to hear from the candidates running to represent this district. BD5 serves about 73,400 students, making it the second largest district of LAUSD's 7 districts. The district is made up of about 136 schools and education centers, including 1 dedicated special education center. Within BD5, about 11,000 students have disabilities, and nearly 17,500 are classified as English learners, with another 21,500 students who have reclassified and gained English proficiency. Sorry, I know I just threw a lot of numbers at you. These numbers reflect the multilingual richness of BD5, where 6,300 students are part of dual language programs, learning in 2 languages, which we believe is a powerful tool for success. The student body in BD5 is overwhelmingly Latino, with 89% of students identifying as such. Following them are 4.2% of students identifying as white, 2.7% identifying as Asian, and roughly under 2% identifying as African American or Black. These demographics reflect the vibrant cultural diversity that makes up BD5 and such a unique part of Los Angeles. However, we also have a lot of work to do. Currently, just under half of BD5's high school graduates, 48%, complete their A through G requirements, a crucial step towards college eligibility. The district also serves its youngest learners. About 1,600 children are enrolled in early education centers, laying the foundation for a lifelong of learning. As we move forward into tonight's forum, it's critical that we keep these students, their families, and their communities in mind. The candidates you'll hear from are vying to represent this complex, diverse, and dynamic district. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the people, their futures, and the role education will play in shaping them. Thank you, and now I'd like to welcome up Marisol Coronado. Marisol is an active parent leader in Southeast LA, or CELA, and will kick us off with some opening remarks. Welcome, Marisol.
Gracias, Dalia. Buenas noches a todos por estar aquí. Mi nombre es Marisol Coronado, yo vivo aquí en la ciudad de Huntington Park. Yo tengo un hijo que cursa el séptimo grado en el Distrito Unificado de Los Ángeles. Él tiene una IP y gracias a las tutorías que logramos, su nivel académico mejoró mucho. Por eso yo quisiera que las tutorías siguieran en todo CELA y en cada una de las escuelas del Distrito Unificado de Los Ángeles. Para mí es un honor estar aquí representando a mi comunidad y trabajar para fomentar el voto hispano, porque cada voto cuenta y hace la diferencia. Gracias a las organizaciones que luchan junto con nuestros promotores de CELA Vota para que nuestra voz sea escuchada. Estoy muy emocionada y orgullosa que vamos a tener nuestra representante latina en el Distrito 5. Porque conocen nuestras necesidades y sobre todo habla nuestro idioma. Por eso quiero pedirles que trabajen para la comunidad y no en contra de la comunidad. Para que cada estudiante logre sus sueños. Ahora para mí es un honor presentar a la moderadora de esta noche, la doctora Felisa Ortiz. Ella viene representando de la campaña para oportunidad de colegios. Gracias, doctora.
Gracias, Marisol. Good evening, muy buenas tardes. My name is Felisa Ortiz Licon, and I'm the Executive Vice President at the Campaign for College Opportunity. And it is a pleasure to be here. It's a real full circle moment because in 2003, I was a field deputy, and then later a director of policy for Board District 5. So this was the area that I was a liaison for, and I had the opportunity to meet so many wonderful community members from the different CELA communities. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight. Thank you for joining us and for joining us today, because your presence is a real testament to your commitment to LA's public education system and the future of our students. And I see some of the students. If you're a student and you're here, raise your hand, because we're all here for you. Bienvenidos. Before we dive into the evening's forum, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the many organizations that made this event possible. And we're grateful for our lead partners, Alliance for a Better Community. If you could just raise your hand if you're from Alliance for a Better Community. Communities and Schools of Los Angeles, Innovate Public Schools, and of course, a big thank you to all of you and all of the partners that you will see listed in various materials. I think there's a PowerPoint deck. All of you, the students, the families, the educators of LAUSD, and all those that work every day to make sure that our students and our communities receive a quality education. Over the last 25 years, much of the progress in LAUSD has been driven by the passion and activism of community members like you. Community members that are demanding more funding, tailored supports and services, and high-quality public instruction for our students. This evening is a continuation of that collective effort to collaborate and also maybe hold our leaders accountable to ensure that they hear our voices. You have heard about the work of the CELA Vote Initiative tonight. Again, I think there's some pictures of some of the CELA folks. And as we are here, they're out there. We have promotores and promotoras out in Board District 5, making sure that our community members and that their voices are heard at the polls. They've knocked hundreds of doors and made hundreds of calls, engaging voters to ensure a strong turnout in both the primary and now in the general election. So let's give them a round of applause because they're engaging our community in their civic duty. Arriba los promotores y las promotoras. Tonight, the focus is really on our candidates, and we're here to hear directly from them to understand their plans to support our schools and to uplift the voices of students, parents, and community members. We want to ensure that whoever is elected to the school board will prioritize the needs of our communities. Let's not forget that LA Unified is the second largest school district in the country and responsible for educating nearly 420,000 students across more than 1,000 schools and across more than 26 cities. On top of the 110,000 students who are also enrolled in public charter schools. So it's 420,000 in LAUSD plus 110,000 in public charter schools. And those schools fall under the jurisdiction of LAUSD. It's important to note the top 3 largest school districts in the US, from the top 3, LA Unified is the only one with an elective school board. So others have hybrid boards or the mayor appoints the school board members. But here in LAUSD, we have the opportunity to elect our representatives. And that is quite a privilege, and to hold them accountable. Forums like this are vital because we as a community have the power to choose who leads our school board, who represents our voices, and who advocates for us. The school board plays a very important role. They approve the policies that guide the district. They oversee an annual budget of $18.4 billion, that's with the B, capital B, and they hire, evaluate, and if necessary, dismiss the superintendent. These responsibilities make the school board essential in shaping the educational success of all of our students in our communities. When the school board makes decisions, it listens to a lot of voices. And we want to make sure that the parents in this community, in this room, are part of the voices that are elevated and uplifted when the board is making decisions. So before we begin, I want to share some housekeeping rules to ensure that the candidates are clear about how this forum will unfold. Tonight, the questions have been prepared by event organizers, parents, and students. The audience has also submitted additional questions in writing the audience may also submit additional questions in writing during the forum. So you will have access to an index card, and you could also submit your question, and as time allows, we will ask those questions of our candidates. We are asking our volunteers, if you're a volunteer, please raise your hand. We're asking the volunteers to collect the index cards. I see a volunteer there and a couple in the back. And you'll have until 6:45 to submit your question. And when you have the question, raise your hand so that the volunteers could collect the card. The questions will be sorted and will be reviewed to make sure that we don't have multiple questions that are asking the same thing. And then we'll get to as many of the questions from the audience as time allows. The candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. And earlier today, we flipped a coin. And so we will, Graciela Ortiz will be the first to speak because she won the coin flip, followed by Carla Griego. The candidates will have equal time to respond to questions. They will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, 2 minutes to answer questions, and then 2 minutes to provide wrapping remarks. We have a timekeeper here in the front that will be helping us in the evening. And the time will start as soon as you are called upon. So as soon as I state the question, the time will start. If you have any clarifying questions, I'm happy to repeat the question, but again, that goes towards your 2 minutes. A note to the candidates and the audience members. Please withhold any personal attacks. Personal attacks are not permitted. And again, this is for not only the candidates, but all of you, the audience. We will not allow any personal attacks, and you will receive a warning, candidates and audience, if you do engage in any type of personal attack. Please be respectful, audience members. Let's be respectful of our candidates. And we ask you to stick to the issues. Candidates, as you're answering the question, please try to answer the question directly. Let's see what else we have here. The questions have not been shared with the candidates ahead of time. So as you're listening to the question, it's also the first time that they are listening to the question. Both candidates who made it to the November runoff in Board District 5 are with us this evening. And thank you both for accepting the invitation to engage in community with all of us. And one last request to our candidates, please slow down your delivery to enable the interpreter to properly translate your message. Again, we have parents, students, educators, community-based organizations, and community members in this room. And now it's time to meet our candidates. And so we have, again, 2 of our candidates here, Graciela Ortiz, who will provide the opening remarks. She is the Regional Administrator of Pupil Services and Attendance in Los Angeles Unified School District, as well as the former mayor of this beautiful city of Huntington Park. And we also have Carla Griego, who is a special ed teacher in Los Angeles Unified School District, as well as a community school coordinator. We will begin with Graciela Ortiz, and she has 2 minutes to provide her opening remarks. And Graciela, your time starts now.
All right. Buenas tardes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Graciela Ortiz, and welcome to the beautiful city of Huntington Park. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a daughter of immigrant parents from Mexico, raised by a single mother because my dad died when I was 6 months. I'm the youngest of 4 and the first in my family to go to college. I'm a product of LAUSD, graduated from Huntington Park High School in 1999, back when LAUSD had a 50% dropout rate. I like to say that I'm one of the lucky ones because too many of my friends and family dropped out of school. That's the LAUSD that gave me my foundation. I was blessed enough and lucky enough to get to UCLA, got my bachelor's degree in sociology, went and got my master's degree in social work from Cal State Long Beach. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm currently working on my doctorate in educational leadership. Working on my dissertation, should be done in March. For the past 18 years, I've been a counselor, pupil services and attendance, 15 of those years, an administrator for the last 3, breaking down every possible barrier that impedes a child from being in school. I've also served on the Huntington Park City Council for 9 years, where I'm happy to say that 1/3 of our city has free Wi-Fi because of an initiative that I started, and we're gonna have free Wi-Fi in the entire city in the next couple of years. In addition, I was able to secure 5 years of free tutoring for the next 5 summers in our parks. I'm running for LAUSD because for far too long, we have not had a voice on our school board. I want safety in our schools, fully funded schools, and most importantly, equity. Our children deserve quality education. It doesn't matter where we live, where in Board District 5, what our zip code is. Our children deserve to graduate, college, and career ready. I want to be able to be your voice on that school board. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Graciela. And now, Carla Griego, if you could please introduce yourself. You have 2 minutes starting now.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. My name is Carla Griego, and I'm a parent and a teacher in LAUSD. Thank you for having me here and sharing this space with me. And I've been teaching for 20 years in LAUSD with the most vulnerable population, students with disabilities. Currently, I am the community school coordinator for pregnant and parenting minors. Throughout my career, I worked with them and soon realized that I couldn't just teach reading and writing to my students. That was not enough. My students could not learn if they were hungry. My students could not learn if they were worried about being evicted. My students could not learn if they were worried that they were going to be deported. And so what I did is I sought parents because I saw the power in parents. And with parents, I organized to bring resources to my school, Buchanan Street Elementary. With them, we pushed the district to bring a playground structure to our school, to get rid of bungalows and create a green space, and to turn on water faucets. The simplest thing. That is who I am. I bring people together. I create spaces for parents to be able to use their voice and their power to affect change. My commitments and my platform include supporting the whole child. That means that we see students holistically, mental health support, green spaces, support keeping them safe, our most vulnerable students, accountability of the superintendent and the transparency of the budget, and accountability of charter schools. We want to make sure that both LAUSD and charter schools are held accountable. And lastly, I want to expand community schools and the Black Student Achievement Plan, which is one of the biggest investments we've made with one of our most vulnerable population. So that's who I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introductory remarks. As we move to the questions, just for the sake of time and to get to the audience questions, please let's hold on our applause. We have 9 questions that I will be posing. I will tell you that it is extremely loud here because of the AC, so I do apologize to the candidates. I think we're trying to lower that. So our first question has to do with nonprofit partnerships. And the question, before I get to the question, I'll give you a little context. Nonprofit service providers are essential partners in addressing the diverse needs of students across LAUSD, offering services that range from academic enrichment, college access, to health and social-emotional wellness. These organizations help bridge the opportunity gaps, in particular for underserved communities, and increase the district's capacity to support students. Given the critical role of roughly 260 plus nonprofit providers, how do you plan to protect and strengthen these partnerships, ensuring that nonprofits continue to be a valuable resource for our students? And we will start with Carla.
Thank you so much. So as I said earlier, I'm a community school coordinator, and one of the pillars is to build partnerships with community. So that means community-based organizations that are seen as an asset to the school site, as well as nonprofits who can bring some resources. If we build partnerships, we could bring more mental health support for our students. At my community school, again, servicing pregnant and parenting minors, prior to us becoming a community school, all the kids did was come in and work on a packet and leave by 1:30. The goal was just to simply get a diploma. But when I came in and with my new principal there, we saw that that was not enough. Our girls deserved more. Just because they had a child or because they became pregnant did not mean that all they needed to do was sit and write on a piece of paper. And so we became a community school. We applied for it, we got it, and now our students, because of partnerships, we have yoga instruction, and we had Theater Workers Project, where our students could work together to develop their language skills, to do some movement, to get to know one another and build community. We also have a partnership with a young artist who's going to be teaching them to draw and to paint and using social emotional skills. And then lastly, we're going to have a partnership with Cedar Sinai that's going to bring that mental health support. Because if you can believe it, we only get 1 day a week of a psychiatric social worker. That is insane. That does not cover any support, any mental health support. All our psychiatric social worker can do is build community. We accept it, we embrace it, but we know we need to work with other partners. And that's one of the things that I'm gonna be doing as a community, somebody who comes from a community school. I'm gonna make sure that the district honors partnerships and continues to build partnerships and makes the process better.
Thank you for that. Graciela, same question.
So as a school board member, I'm going to continue the work that I've already been doing. We were able to get one-on-one tutoring for the next 5 years in Huntington Park because we worked with organizations like Innovate. We've already been working together. As a city council member, I made sure to work with every single school. The thing with the district is this: we need to have accountability. It's not just about putting it on paper that we have these partnerships. I'll give you a perfect example. We had a press conference not too long ago talking about how CELA had these partnerships, MOUs with the district. Nonprofit organizations, that some are in this room, were invited. They were invited the night before and told, come to the press conference. Instead of saying, let's be true partners and working on these community packs to really provide services together. The reality is that we are the second largest school district in the country. We have so many needs, and we don't have fully funded schools, so we need partnerships to be able to provide these resources. A lot of them are college and career-ready resources. A lot of them are help on financial aid, but one of the best partnerships that we have had has been our Link Learning partnerships, where we're able to get our students to get internships at local hospitals, at law firms, at City Hall, where they're able to get experience and opportunities that many of you and I never had. I told you about my story growing up as an LAUSD student. My story isn't different than many of your stories. All we're trying to do is to provide opportunities that we never had. And that's why our nonprofit agencies are so important. And it's not just about checking off the box. Innovate just had a parent guide that they presented to me and said, look, this is the guide that parents can use to understand the strategic plan for LAUSD. I have yet to see that guide in all the schools that I visit as an administrator. Let's work together.
Thank you. I also want to thank the management for the AC. I think that the quality of sound is a lot better, so muchas gracias. The next question has to do with digital equity, and we will start with Graciela, then move to Carla. The digital divide has taught us that families in low-income communities pay more for slower internet. This existing inequity hinders students' ability to participate in modern learning. This year, LAUSD invested $10 million to provide free internet for nearly 63,000 families that rely on broadband and tech devices offered by the district. LAUSD should be commended for providing free internet to families for this current school year, but this is expected to expire next June. The question is, how would you work to provide more long-term or permanent solutions that ensure that Black and brown families have access to reliable internet at home? Graciela, we'll start with you.
We need to continue to do the work that many of our local leaders are already doing. Huntington Park is the first city in Southeast LA that's providing free Wi-Fi. It's an initiative that I started with many of my colleagues on the city council. I want to thank Mayor Karina Macias for being here and helping with that. 1/3 of our city has free Wi-Fi. So the permanent solution is making sure that the entire county of Los Angeles has free Wi-Fi. And the reality is that the state of California is already investing this money. So yes, I'll commend LAUSD for providing devices to our students, but it's not enough. It's a societal issue. During COVID, we saw the digital divide. It only demonstrated how much our communities pay for Wi-Fi. And some of our community members can't even get the Wi-Fi because they live doubled up. When you have two families in one home, Spectrum will only put in one line. They're not gonna put in the second. So as a school board member, I will be the advocate working with our assembly members, with our senators, with our county supervisor to make sure that that money is coming to the entire county so that we have free Wi-Fi for everyone. Now, this is why the partnerships are so important. I've already started those conversations with County Supervisor Janice Hahn, who's supporting me in this race. Why? Because it's imperative that we get the funding. It's imperative that we hold our state elected officials accountable and that we hold and we work with our local elected officials. I have counselors that still don't have a laptop, and they're itinerant workers. They go to different schools, and they still don't have a laptop. So when we talk about resources not being provided to all our employees and all our students, I see it firsthand. I've seen it for 15 years as a counselor and 3 years as an administrator. So as a school board member, I will make sure that we hold our state elected officials accountable and be that voice for all our communities so that we have free Wi-Fi in the entire county of Los Angeles.
Thank you. Carla?
Yes, I mean, I would say we have to hold the district accountable if any of our employees do not have the tools that they need to do their job. That is unacceptable that any of our employees would have to be held accountable to buy their own equipment. And the district, with $6 billion in reserve, will not purchase their equipment. That is not okay. I would hold the district accountable now, not wait until I'm in office. This digital inequity is real. In fact, I tried to get a laptop for one of my students this week. And I called so many offices, and they said, guess what? It's over. That program is over. They're not doing it anymore. They don't have any laptops. So there's nothing available now. I don't know where these $10 million are, but they are not coming to our school, that's for sure. So we do need to make partnerships with different agencies, with government, to make sure that we do have this for our students and for our families. We also need to train our families. I hold a lot of meetings with parents where the only thing they have is a phone. I have to train parents how to use Zoom, how to touch the screen so that they can click on a link. Our parents need that kind of support, and it is our duty to make sure that they have that so that they can have access to meetings, so that they can use their voice to advocate for their children or to advocate for themselves. So I'm gonna fight not only that people get the equipment, that they have Wi-Fi, but that we also train families, that we also give the whole family access to this, because that is a barrier that prevents families from participating in schools, is the ability to actually get to the campus. So let's give them many different opportunities for them to be able to participate. And this is one thing that we could use, and we should say this to everyone in LA.
Thank you, Carla. Appreciate both of your thoughtful responses around digital equity and digital literacy. Our next topic is charter schools. There are different models of public schools in LAUSD, such as magnet schools, pilot schools, advanced study schools, and nonprofit charter public schools. Charter schools are public schools that are overseen by LAUSD, but are operated by nonprofit organizations. The question for the candidates, what role do you believe these nonprofit charter schools play in delivering education to high-need students in Los Angeles? And we'll start with Carla.
Well, charter schools are around. They're there, and they serve as students. My position is that we need to hold them accountable just like we would hold LAUSD accountable. Are they servicing students with disabilities? Are they servicing students who are English language learners? Are their enrollment numbers what they report to us? And if that's happening, fine. Are the families welcome? Do the families have a voice? If you're gonna be a community school, charter school, are you going to honor all the pillars of a community school? And I would hope that you do. I would hope so, because I have met many charter school parents who love their charter school, who are happy with it. So I would hope that the charter school does right by them and include them in the decision-making process, which is one of the pillars of a community school, sharing power. That's one of the pillars of a community school. Providing integrated student supports, that's another pillar. Doing a deep asset and needs assessment of a community, doing surveys, focus groups, and empathy interviews to really get to know your community. That's what I would hope that they do if they are going to be a community school. And I encourage not just charter schools to do that, but any public school to do that, because that is one of my goals, is to make our whole district a community school district that is run by the people, by all of us here, because all of us should have a say-so in how things are decided at the school site. That is how I see charter schools. I would hope, I know that there are some charter schools that have been closed down because of last-minute disenrollment, a decision that was made by their board, and that's not acceptable. We can't do that. We can't leave families hanging.
Thank you. I need to get used to the buzzer. Graciela, same question. You have 2 minutes starting now.
You know, every time there's an election that comes around, our families get pinned. Charter school families, LAUSD families, and that just needs to stop. It's public schools. So many charter schools opened up in Southeast Los Angeles, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because in 1999, when I was a high school student, we had a 50% dropout rate. And our parents didn't know where to turn to. And when charter schools opened up in Southeast LA, parents had an option and they had a choice. As an LAUSD school board member, I will make sure that we are working together, because I've met so many parents that have their little one at Miles Avenue Elementary, their middle school one at Aspire, and then their high school student at Marquez. Our communities are seeing schools, as public schools. I believe in the public school system. I believe that our public schools should be top of the line, whether they're charter schools or LAUSD schools. Accountability is key. When we talk about co-locations, I worked at Marquez High School for 8 years, 3 co-located pilot schools, all LAUSD pilot schools. And the only way that we were able to be successful is that we collaborated and worked together. When we have a charter school and an LAUSD school on a campus, I've seen it work great without politicizing our families, because our families just want good schools. So the way I see it, we need to hold our LAUSD schools accountable to quality education, and we need to hold our charter schools accountable the same. But we need to stop politicizing and labeling parents and telling them you shouldn't be sending your child to charter schools because you're taking away from our LAUSD schools. You know what I say? Then let's make that LAUSD's top of the line, and let's learn from one another so that we can have an educational system that's great for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. You have definitely given us a lot to think about, and appreciate your thoughtful responses. Our next topic is equitable funding and transparency. Over the past decade, the School Equity Needs Index, CENI, has grown by millions of dollars. However, at the current moment, we see wavering support for this equitable funding tool, and still a deep need to protect the CENI's current funds and distribute more money through the CENI formula. The question is, if elected to represent Board District 5, a district that historically has seen a lack of equitable investments by LAUSD, what would you do to protect CENI and its continued implementation? Graciela?
Holding the superintendent accountable. The school board has one main job: holding the superintendent accountable. This past year, CENI funds were cut from schools. The schools that need it the most. There was an entire movement on CENI funds, making sure that our schools that needed it the most received this funding. They were taking 70% away from the schools. And it wasn't until parents advocated to the school board to be able to return some of those funds were we able to get the money back into our schools. Why does it take that? Why did our school board members make that decision? It's time that we're thinking ahead. It's time that our school board members put our needs first. So as a school board member, I will make sure to hold the superintendent accountable and the administration accountable to make sure that our CENI funds stay with the schools. And the best part about it, the even more important part about it, is that when the schools are making decisions, parents need to be involved in those decisions. It shouldn't be just a little checkoff, because that's what happens at our schools. Okay, so we have the CENI funds. We've identified the schools that need it the most. Where is the parent voice? Where is the teacher voice? Where is the paraprofessional voice? Where is the student voice? Where does the student voice come in to say, our school needs another counselor? Our school needs more campus aides. Our school needs another psychiatric social worker. So it's not just about making sure that our schools obtain the CENI funds. It's also about getting it on time. As an administrator, I can tell you that the money was returned to the schools too late. It was returned now. We've already funded positions. Now I need to try to hire individuals quickly because the funds were returned late. So I can tell you that I've been a counselor for 15 years in the district, and I've been an administrator 3. I can tell you that there's so many issues that happen with our district that we need to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla?
Yes, I strongly support equity funding, and I also strongly believe that we need to build capacity with parents, right? It's not enough to invite parents to the table and say, okay, you're gonna vote on this, and give a report without sharing exactly what that report is about. Actually, it's similar to the report that school board members get right now, right? They get a budget presentation that makes no sense. And that's what happens at our schools. And there's no defining, there's nothing that explains exactly what these terms mean and how they do really have a say-so in voting this down. I have been in ELAC meetings, in SSC meetings, in local school leadership meetings, and I'm gonna tell you, when I worked with the ELAC folks, that was the hardest one, because they had the best ideas and the best suggestions, and once it got to SSC, it voted down. What did they want? They wanted counselors, they wanted psychiatric social workers, but the school didn't have enough money and they prioritized the test scores. So then they would fund something that would supposedly raise the test scores instead of the social emotional well-being of our students. So again, the money is good, but let me tell you, I don't feel it. I don't feel it at my school site. My students don't feel it at my school site. Like I said, we only have 1 day a week for a population that is severely underserved, has a lot of trauma. 1 day a week of a PSW. So I support engaging parents, not just involving parents, engaging them and empowering them to be leaders at the school site. Build their capacity to be leaders, to offer ideas, to offer critique, to make changes to the suggestions that come to the table. That's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you both. As a reminder, if you want to ask a question, please do submit your question to one of the volunteers. They should be along the sides or in the back. Please submit the question, and we will try to get to as many of them as time allows. The last question for me, and then we're going to move to some audience members that have already been pre-identified, is a question on college access, which is a personal favorite as a first-generation college student and also as part of the Campaign for College Opportunity. And we'll start with the statement, which is, equitable college access is critical in empowering our students to pursue higher ed and break cycles of poverty. Resources such as financial aid guidance, college counseling, and overall academic support in completing the A through G requirements are crucial for increased college enrollment for our students. Question is, what specific strategies do you plan on implementing to increase college access for minoritized students, ensuring that they have the proper guidance, support, and resources needed to pursue higher education? So that's part one. What are the ways that you will ensure the proper guidance, support, and resources needed to pursue higher ed? And what resources and supports do you think needs to be available to them around post-graduation career pathways? And we'll start with Carla.
So first of all, I would say you have to lower the counselor to student ratio. It is impossible for a counselor who has a ratio of 500 to 1 to counsel students. My daughter has not been able to see her counselor yet. She's doing it on her own with her peers. It is not the counselor's fault. She has a lot. And the same thing with A through G counselors. They're the ones who are supposed to help the kids who are falling behind. I had an amazing A through G counselor at my school site last year, where we had 2 students who were going to go to college. And he took it upon himself, outside of his job duties, to take her to Trade Tech, to visit the child care center, because that was what was holding her back from going to school. Where was she going to leave her baby? Took her to the child care, introduced her to everyone, helped her fill out the application, did everything one-on-one, and that student is there now. It took that much attention. But my students shouldn't be the only one getting that much attention. We all should be getting that much attention, and that's why we really need to invest in lowering these caseloads for our counselors. We need to get more counselors at school sites, more A through G, and we also need to lower our class sizes, because how can kids learn if class sizes are too big? We also need to expand the curriculum. Let's do project-based learning instead of just rote education where you read a book and you answer questions. Let's engage our students in discourse, in debates, in Socratic seminars. Let them try to solve problems from the community. That's what we need to be doing. That's how we prepare students to go to college, because those are the skills they're gonna need, but that's also how we prepare students to get a career and to work, because those skills are useful everywhere. And unfortunately, those are not the skills that are valued in our district.
Thank you. Graciela, same question?
Now, I talked about I'm one of the lucky ones from my class to be able to go off to college. I had to cross tracks to be able to take AP courses. Some of our schools in Board District 5 have about 5 AP courses that are offered, while other schools in Board District 5 have 12 to 15 options. When we talk about equity issues that happen in Board District 5, equity issues where we have the difference between the haves and the have-nots, we need to address the fact that some of our schools don't provide the opportunities to our students the same way that other communities do within the same district. So we have to start there. An accountability of what's being offered to our students, making sure that every single student in LAUSD and all the charter schools within Board District 5 are offering our students the ability to take college courses, and better yet, making sure we're providing quality education that gets them to be successful in those courses. Too many of my students are graduating, getting into a 4-year university, they're happy, and then they drop out after the first year. So when we talk about the resources that we need after we graduate them, they graduate, they get into a 4-year university, we need to make sure we follow them after that. And we work with our nonprofit partners to make sure that they are being successful. The other piece, when we talk about career pathways, that was the second portion of the question. We have to have better learning projects where we have our students participating in apprenticeship programs and internships. Many affluent communities have that ability because their parents are attorneys, their parents are doctors. They're able to give them those internships. In our communities, we don't have that, so the district must provide it. That's where equity comes in. That is where we provide opportunities to students that we never had. So it's about making sure that they're college and career ready and providing opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Fascinating topic. I could actually have many, many follow-up questions, but we don't have time, and I lied. I still have 2 more questions to ask of you. The next one is on mental health. And we know that after the COVID pandemic, or some of us are still experiencing the impact of the COVID pandemic, we have seen our youth facing concerning rates of mental health. District 5 parents have expressed feeling a lack of support around mental health in their children's school and recommending mental health services and programs that offer emotional support. Our youth need them. In particular, our LGBTQ students require more inclusive support systems that address the identity-based discrimination, and they need physical and psychological safe spaces. As someone who hopes to represent this area, what would you do to ensure timely mental health support for all of our students? And we'll start with Graciela.
Well, as I mentioned, I have my master's degree in social work. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I teach second-year master's students at Cal State Long Beach. And one thing that I tell my students at Cal State Long Beach is, don't apply to LAUSD or don't apply to work for our schools if you're not going to give our students 150%, because they deserve that and more. And because our mental health profession is difficult. So the mental health profession is so difficult, it's 10 times more difficult in our school system. Because our students are dealing with anxiety. Our students are dealing with adapting to a new world. After COVID, many of our students are learning how to adapt to going to class every single day and how to deal with all the social media. But the other piece is that our employees are also dealing with a lot. Our teachers, our counselors, our paraprofessionals, our campus aides. Our district needs to do a better job of providing those resources and making it okay for us to talk about the mental health supports that we need in our school system. I want to make sure that every single school has a full-time psychiatric social worker and a full-time pupil services and attendance counselor. And it's not because it's personal to me as a pupil services and attendance counselor, but it's because we can provide the mental health support that's needed. It's impossible for one psychiatric social worker to provide mental health support to a school that has 2,000 students. So we need to have those partnerships with the Department of Mental Health. Another conversation that I've been having with the county has mental health specific funding. We need to tap into that funding to be able to fund our psychiatric social workers with LAUSD. I'm not talking about outsourcing. I'm talking about making sure that we have psychiatric social workers and then having partnerships with our community mental health agencies to provide that support to our students. And then in addition, we need to make sure to inform our students that it's okay to have a bad day, but it's also okay to be successful. So thank you very much.
So in addition to providing the direct mental health support by bringing in more psychiatric social workers, we also have to create environments that are welcoming, where children feel like they belong, and where our families feel like they belong. I was at a meeting today where a community rep said, you know, how do you think it's gonna make a parent wanna come and participate when they are not welcomed at the school? And then they wonder, how is my child treated at that school? So those are very important things, and I'm gonna tell you that that is the one thing that parents have shared with me at every meeting I've had. I am not welcomed at my school. They see me and they wanna push me away. They call me the complainer. They don't, you know, I go and volunteer hours on end in that community center, in the parent center, and they don't even want to give us a cup of coffee. I mean, people do not feel valued. And that also impacts your emotional well-being and your mental health and your attendance, right? So that is also very important. So not only do we need to support more psychiatric social worker hiring, but school climate advocates. These are classified employees that really, truly work hard to create a welcoming environment by centering the highest need population and making sure that some of the kids that generally don't get to do the spirit things do get to do it. Hiring them, more campus aides, creating an environment where students feel safe to go to an adult, where every adult in that campus knows at least one student, and they are connecting with that student. It's a holistic approach. Mental health is not just one thing. It is all of those things together, and that's what I'm gonna focus on.
Thank you for that, Carla. A quick announcement, plot twist for both of you. We will be asking you to give 1 minute closing remarks because we are running a tad behind schedule and we want to make sure that we get questions from the audience. The last question that I will pose has to do with school safety and restorative justice practices. We know that last year, Superintendent Carvalho attempted to bring police back to the school campuses, though we have a board resolution from 2020 that is moving towards comprehensive approach rooted in community-based safety that includes restorative justice, mental health support, etc. Do you think alternatives to police should be central to LAUSD's school safety plans? And if so, what will you do to ensure that the district remains committed to a comprehensive safety strategy rooted in community-based safety alternatives? Carla, we'll start with you.
Thank you for that question. During this campaign, I've been talking to voters about this, about safety. And at first, people might say, it feels really unsafe at the school, or it feels very unsafe in the streets. And I ask them, would you want to be part of trying to keep our streets safe by creating safe passages where the community members who know the community, know the safe streets, know where to go, can guide students? And they're like, yeah, I'd like to be a part of that. These are retired folks who have grandchildren at the schools, and they want to be involved. And there are $30 million that LAUSD got in 2022 for community-based safety programs, and they've only used $3 million. Talk about accountability. That is one of the top things I'm going to hold Carvalho accountable. We need to use those $30 million for our students between 22 and now. We have not used that. That is a disservice, that is wrong, that is unjust to our students who need it so bad. So I'm going to focus on de-escalation tactics and techniques for everyone at the school site, restorative justice practices, anti-bullying, substance abuse support, because those are the things that parents tell me that they worry about for their child. What do we do if a student is vaping? What do we do with them after? Where are we sending them? What kind of support are we giving the family who is probably scared about this? We need to implement that money, those $27 million, for this kind of support for our families. Peace building. And RJ, I said that already, but restorative justice is very important, not only for the students' social emotional well-being, but for the whole community. And you know what? Parents love to sit in a circle, and we should implement that on the daily.
So I really believe that question comes back to the communities. Board District 5 has various communities. It goes from Eagle Rock to Glassell Park to East Hollywood to Pico Union to Koreatown to South Central Los Angeles to Southeast LA. Every single community has different safety concerns. I believe that our district should have their own police department, but should not have them on our school campus. I don't want other agencies like LAPD or sheriffs coming into our schools, because we can teach restorative justice practices to our school police officers because the district actually is able to implement that. They also have diversion programs. So when a student is caught vaping in the school site, or when a student is caught with a knife or brandishes a knife on the school campus, they're not incarcerated. They're not taken to LAPD or to sheriffs. They're taken by the school police and they're diverted. They're diverted to get mental health support. They're diverted to have the parents take parenting classes, and they get the resources that they need. It is imperative that we have the fully funded supports in our schools to be able to address safety. But many of our parents in the Southeast and South Central and Pico Union have told me that they're not concerned about the safety inside the campus. They're concerned about everything that's happening outside of the campus, which is why we need our own school police officers to patrol our schools, so that no one on the outside is able to come in to hurt our children. I won't go far and say there was an incident not too far from here in Huntington Park at one of our schools, where an individual was being chased with a gun and he jumped into one of our schools. And it went on lockdown for 2.5 hours, and the parents were terrified. It wasn't about something that was happening inside the school. It was about outsiders coming in to try to hurt our children, or in an attempt to hurt our children and our staff. So I do believe that we need to make sure that we have our diversion programs because we need to provide those resources to our students. But I do want to say that I believe that the communities need to decide if they want their school police officers patrolling their schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Now it's time to hear from LAUSD students and parents. And when I call you, if you could please come to the podium to pose a question for the candidates. We're going to start with Alice Garcia, student leader with Communities and Schools of Los Angeles, who will ask a question around chronic absenteeism.
Good evening, candidates. My name is Alice Garcia, and I am a student with Communities and School of Los Angeles. Chronic absenteeism is a growing issue among students in LAUSD. Me personally and peers around me struggle to make it to school every day. This happens due to mental health, work, transportation, and the need to help at home. I know it's a struggle for students to come to school every day. For the last couple of school years, I struggled to keep my attendance great. I would help my mother at home with my sick grandpa and deal with mental issues due to losing family members to COVID. I know it is hard to keep up with schoolwork when you miss school. Students just want to know that teachers and adults still give the help students need and resources while missing school. My question for you candidates is, how would you go about solving the main causes of chronic absenteeism? Furthermore, how would you guys work together with parents to maintain our daily attendance as students? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Graciela.
So I kind of know a little bit about attendance. So I've been a pupil services and attendance counselor for 18 years. And what we've been doing is breaking down those barriers one child at a time. After COVID, Alice, it's gotten so difficult for many of our students to just get out of bed. It's like relearning education all over again. Not to mention that sometimes you miss a week of school and you turn in your work, you put it on Schoology, put it online, and then you get the good grade, sometimes. Yes. But we need to make sure that we're addressing the mental health needs. But attendance isn't just about having attendance counselors. It's about every single person in that school being able to address attendance. So when you miss a day of school and you come back and they say, "Hey Alice, why were you out yesterday? Welcome back." There are so many social issues happening with our families that we want to make sure that we have those resources for all our students. And we need to expand those resources. You talked about transportation. That's been one of the major issues with our students because we have many students that are unhoused. So what I want to make sure that we expand on is having universal transportation with our school system. We are already headed in the right direction in that sense, but we need to speed it up. We need to finish the project yesterday, where we have public school buses that will pick up students at different locations to make sure they get to school on time. Those are the resources that we are able to provide to our students, and we need to expand on those. The biggest thing, we want to make sure that every single student feels safe, feels heard, and feels like their school is theirs. So how do we make sure that we engage our students in caring about their school? How do we make sure that they have a voice at their school site? As a school board member, I will make sure that we have our student council for Board District 5 that is going to help me to make sure that our students have a voice, not only for Board District 5, but have a voice at every single one of their schools. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. In fact, this past week, as a community school coordinator, we were looking at our data. And one of the things that I had to do was to meet with parents, with caregivers, with staff, and with students to ask about what were the barriers that were causing absenteeism. And so everybody talked about the different barriers, and among them was transportation. And we asked them, okay, what do we have to do? What do we have to do to remove the barrier so that students can come to school? I have students who travel for almost 2.5 hours on a bus to get to our school. I have students who walk a mile to take the bus with their baby to get to school. So school buses provided by the district is very important, and they are doing that. They started at one of our sites, but our other site doesn't have it. So things break down in the process. And we need to hold them accountable so that everybody has this access to transportation. So that's one of the things. Housing is a big issue. And in 2023, UTLA made an agreement with LAUSD to look at all the vacant lots that LAUSD owns. And then once they were identified, to build housing for our students there. The land has been identified right now. Now we need to hold them accountable to make sure that land is used for housing because our students need it. In LAUSD, homelessness went up 26%, and it is hard to find housing. I've been working on that for 2 weeks for one of my students, and she finally got a bed in a shelter. She was kicked out of a hotel because all she had was $4 left. She is 18 years old with a 3-year-old child. We need to do something about housing.
Thank you, Alice, for your question. Up next, we have Innovate parent leader Kelly Bedford asking a question around Black student achievement and literacy.
Good evening, families. Good evening, candidates. My name is Kelly Bedford, and I'm part of Innovate Public Schools. I serve as a parent leader, and I've been a parent leader and advocate for about 26 years now. Okay, LAUSD recently removed Black student population as a criteria for allocating Black Student Achievement Program, otherwise known as BSAP funding and other resources, effectively reneging on its efforts to prioritize the unique needs of Black students. This program was intended to atone for the lack of high-quality education delivered to Black students, as well as address the long-standing harm and neglect our children have and continue to endure in this district. This comes at a time when our Black students are still struggling academically, especially as it pertains to elementary school literacy, where 73% of Black scholars are not reading at grade level, and previous initiatives have failed to make any meaningful impact on racial disparities in student outcome data. As most BSAP students fall under the auspices of our Board District 1 member, we want to ensure the intentional and active support of BSAP is championed district-wide, despite Black students' enrollment being sparse in Board District 5 and in others. This leads me to the question, do you believe Black students should remain a priority in the Black Student Achievement Program, given the persistent opportunity gaps they face? If so, how would you advocate for this? And if not, how do you propose ensuring their specific needs are addressed?
Thank you, and we'll start with Carla, 2 minutes.
Thank you for that question. And yes, my heart was broken, and I'm upset that that happened. And I understand that it's a legal thing that somebody is threatening to file a lawsuit. They're threatening all over the country. These are the kinds of things that are happening at school boards where they're trying to infiltrate and really stop the progress and the transformation that we are trying to make. And it's unfortunate that the board gave in because frankly, I think they should have stood strong. They should have stood strong for our students. So now, here we are. We need to make sure that that money continues to go to our Black students because you are right. The Black Student Achievement Plan was one of the best things that happened in 2020 because our Black students have been underserved for many decades. And I have met with many Black students and counselors who work under BSAP. And they both have talked about how much their lives have changed, how now they can see that they have opportunities, and how they appreciate that they see one of them as a counselor, as a leader, as a mentor. And the other thing is they would go on trips to colleges for them, targeted for them, and that is beautiful because not many would have had that opportunity were it not for BSAP. So I'm gonna fight hard for BSAP. My daughter has fought hard for BSAP. She has gone before the board many a times fighting for BSAP because we strongly believe that this is something that we need in our schools, and our students deserve that. Our Black students deserve that. And let me just tell you that we just did this training on suicide awareness, and numbers for black students have risen. They need more support now, not less.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Graciela,
Thank
2
you.
minutes.
One of the biggest issues that we have, Ms. Bedford, with LAUSD is that they implement something, they want to see immediate results in 6 months, and then they take it back right away. Our black students are 7.3% of our district, yet their chronic absenteeism is 10% higher than any other student. An injustice to one group is an injustice to all groups. So if we can't, as a district, continue to provide resources to a group of students that has been for decades, not receiving the resources that they needed, then what are we going to say about the rest of our students within LAUSD? You are absolutely right. There are 3 schools that fall under group 1 through 3 for BSAP in Board District 5. But as a school board member, it is our responsibility to fight for BD5, but it's our responsibility as an educator and as a representative to represent all students within LAUSD. So I will fight and advocate for BSAP. Make sure that it's to our black students. The other piece is making sure that funding is equitable across the board in the sense of making sure that we're looking at the data. My dissertation is specifically on our Latino boys. So our girls, and I'm all about women empowerment, I am, but our girls are doing so much better in the Southeast LA communities than our boys. And so I want to make sure that we highlight how do we make sure we uplift all our subgroups. So we lift up our black students, we lift up our Latino students, we lift up our Native American students. We make sure that all students are receiving the resources they need, but it's about equity. So yes, you will have a fighter in me, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for that insightful question. And I want to now invite ABC parent leader Magda Vargas to ask a following question around English learners.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Magda Vargas y soy madre líder de ABC. Tengo 2 hijos en LAUSD en grados 1º y 10º. Mi hija del grado 10 reclasificó en el grado 6. Gracias a los cambios y ayudas que yo busqué con tutorías, fue muy difícil batallar año tras año desde kinder en reclasificar con el sistema que tiene la escuela. En mi opinión, siento que por décadas siguen igual, sin mejoras, y muchos padres viven con eso, y sus hijos llegan hasta nivel de high school sin poder reclasificar. Pero debido a esto, quiero que mi hijo pequeño no pase lo mismo que mi hija mayor. Sabiendo que los estudiantes aprendices de inglés representan una población estudiantil significativa y diversa dentro de LAUSD, brindar a nuestros estudiantes el apoyo lingüístico y una enseñanza culturalmente receptiva es esencial para garantizar su éxito académico y su plena participación en sus respectivas aulas. Candidatas, mi pregunta es, ¿cuáles son sus planes para asegurar que los niños no se conviertan en aprendices de inglés a largo plazo?
That is actually Graciela. ¿Entendieron la pregunta? Le estoy preguntando en español.
¿Se la puedo responder en español? ¿Está bien? ¿Sí? Sí, ok.
Sí,
Ok, gracias.
sí, en
Ok.
español.
So, una de las cosas que hemos visto con el distrito es al momento que ponen los padres en su matriculación a entrar a una escuela que hablan español en su casa, es todo. Ya los clasificaron como estudiante de inglés como segundo lenguaje, de aprendizaje de inglés. Cuando la realidad es que muchos de nuestros estudiantes hablan el inglés en la casa. Yo era una de ellas. Le hablaba español o le hablo español a mi mamá que está allí y le hablo inglés a mi hermana y le hablo inglés a mi hermano. Lo que necesitamos hacer es asegurarnos de que nuestros estudiantes estén recibiendo los recursos desde chiquitos. Nosotros sabemos, la estadística dice, los datos dicen que si un estudiante no está leyendo al nivel, al segundo o tercer grado, el estado de California ya está contando una cama en la cárcel para ellos. Si nosotros sabemos la estadística, tenemos que asegurarnos, 1, de cambiar el sistema y número 2, dar los recursos en el segundo y tercer grado. Usted habla de la tutoría 1 a 1. Necesitamos tener eso 1 a 1, instrucción en nuestras escuelas. Y número 2, tenemos que asegurarnos que hablando un segundo lenguaje es algo maravilloso. Es algo que deberíamos de enseñarles a nuestros estudiantes, que si tú hablas inglés y español, eres dotado. Y yo quisiera que nuestros estudiantes aprendieran un tercer lenguaje. En nuestras escuelas aquí, en el Distrito 5, muchas nada más tienen la opción de aprender español como dual language. ¿Por qué no estamos enseñando otros lenguajes aparte de español? ¿Verdad? Entonces, aseguramos que tengamos los recursos en el segundo y tercer grado para asegurarnos que reclasifiquen. Y número 2, asegurarnos que cuando están matriculando, que no están poniéndoles la tachita diciendo que no pueden hablar el inglés. Porque muchos de nuestros estudiantes sí lo hablan desde chiquitos y tenemos que asegurarnos que ese sistema esté en lugar. Gracias.
¿Quiere que lo haga en español? ¿Sí? Ok. Hay algunos problemas con el programa de aprendizaje de inglés. Parte de eso recientemente es que cambiaron el examen, uno de los exámenes para que los niños puedan reclasificar. Está el estatal, que es el LPAC. Y ahora han puesto iReady, que es el segundo examen que tienen que pasar, y las notas o una recomendación, ¿verdad? El iReady no está conjunto con el LPAC y es más difícil que pasen ese examen a que pasen el que tenían antes. Y solo pueden estar un nivel bajo del nivel que ellos tienen que estar. Así es que si son de tercer grado, solo pueden estar en segundo grado bajo. Y si no tienen esa nota, no pasan. O sea que se ha hecho más difícil en vez de menos difícil. Y entonces el año pasado los datos de reclasificación bajaron por eso mismo. Pero lo que pasa es que no hay voz de los padres en estas decisiones. O sea, de que su voz no está tomada en cuenta cuando el distrito está haciendo decisiones sobre qué clase de exámenes. No los invitan para que ustedes puedan hacer las preguntas y decir, ok, ¿cómo este examen me va a ayudar a mi estudiante a que pase el LPAC, el estatal? Y eso es un problema, que otra vez la voz de ustedes no está allí. Segundamente, entrenamiento de los maestros. Hay muchos maestros que están enseñando nivel 1 y nivel 2 y el distrito no les ha dado entrenamiento. Y ese es un gran problema, especialmente en la secundaria. Porque en la secundaria es diferente lo que uno enseña y especialmente los estudiantes que acaban de venir al país. Ellos necesitan el nivel 1 y no tienen maestros que están preparados para eso.
Gracias.
Gracias por responder en nuestro idioma de muchos papás que aún no tenemos voz.
Gracias, Magda, por su pregunta. Our next question is coming from a student leader. Her name is Dulce Belén Vaquero, and she's here with Latino Equality Alliance. Dulce, please join us.
Hello, my name is Dulce Belén Vaquero. I'm a senior at Theodore Roosevelt High School and a youth leader with Latino Equality Alliance, also known as LEA. In 2021, Governor Newsom at the state legislature established the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, ELOP, which provides schools across the state over $4 billion in annual funding to increase access to enrichment opportunities outside of the school day for students in TK through 6th grade. LAUSD receives approximately $500 million in ELOP funds each year. Under this program, school districts are encouraged to form partnerships with CBOs to provide these enrichment opportunities to students on campus or in communities. My question is, how would you ensure LAUSD builds meaningful partnerships with CBOs under the ELOP to provide students with better enrichment opportunities in their communities? And what policy changes would you advocate for this to simplify the procurement process and make it easier for CBOs to partner with schools under the ELOP?
Thank you. Carla?
Thank you, and you have so much information. Wow, you know the numbers. So yes, first let me just address the procurement issue. That is awful what's happened this year. We had 3 contracts that we wanted to bring folks to bring yoga, to bring social emotional, and to this day, they have not been approved. It's already mid-October. So there needs to be changes, and I know where it's coming from, fear of lawsuits. I get it, but LAUSD cannot go to the other extreme because at the end of the day, it's you guys who are hurting with not getting these supports. So now the ELOP funded, the Extended Learning Opportunity funding, some of it is used for field trips, right? And the other part, we don't know. There's a lack of transparency how LAUSD is using these extra funds. And what they're doing is they're putting a lot of barriers and a lot of red tape in order for schools to be able to access some of these services that the community-based organizations have. So what I'm gonna do is, one, I'm gonna study why it is that it has to be so difficult. And I know that generally lawyers have a lot of reasons for putting all of these barriers, but there's gotta be something that makes it accessible for our students. It can't be like this. And then second of all, I would want to have extended learning opportunities for students, not only off campus, but on campus. Because sometimes it's hard to get to a location in order to be able to participate. And then furthermore, I would like for dinner to be served at schools, because they only give you supper right after school, but our students, teenagers, young people, you're hungry at 5 o'clock. And if the program is going on till 6 o'clock, well, they should give you a hearty snack, like a meal. And that would open up even more opportunities for employment as well. Thank you for that question.
Hi, Dulce. Thank you so much for participating with Latino Equality Alliance, and congratulations on the amazing community center here in Bell and Sela. So one of the things with the district is that the right hand never talks to the left hand. It's the second largest school district in the country, and there's various departments. I can tell you that there's one simple answer: cut the red tape. We need to cut the red tape. As a city council member in the city of Huntington Park, that is one of the first things we needed to do, was cut the red tape. Every time we wanted to bring a particular program to our city, the first thing they would say is, oh, we can get sued for that. You know what? In the state of California, we can get sued for anything and everything. If somebody looks at you wrong, you get sued. You can. A civil lawsuit can come up at any given time because of that. So we need to stop with the red tape. So what would I do? Accountability. Because I have the experience as an elected official for 9 years, and because I have the experience of working with the district, not only as a counselor in schools, but as an administrator with operations and all the different departments, I can tell you that I'll be able to cut that red tape. And we'll be able to ensure that we continue the partnerships that we already have. So I have a partnership with Latino Equality Alliance. Actually, Mr. Eddie Martinez is our city council member in the beautiful city of Huntington Park, who's the executive director for LEA. Why do we have those partnerships? Because only with partnerships can we be able to provide full services to our students. We have to make sure that that funding, it's going to CBOs. Because CBOs are a foundation and the heart of much of the work that we do in education, and we can't do it alone as educators. But the other piece is making sure that you, the students, tell us what is it that you want as enrichment programs. We want to prepare you for college and career, but we want to make sure that you're having the activities after school that is going to prepare you for that. And if an organization like the Latino Equality Alliance is providing that safe space for you and is making sure that they're providing those enrichment programs, then let's make sure we continue to partner with organizations like Latino Equality Alliance. Let's cut that red tape.
Thank you, Dulce, and for that question. And we have our final question of the night, and it will come from Aida Vega, who is a parent leader for Innovate Public Schools. And the question has to do with tutoría de alta calidad or high quality tutoring.
Buenas tardes a todos y a las candidatas. Mi nombre es Aida Vega y soy una líder de padres en Innovate Public School y tengo unas estudiantes en el Distrito 5. Antes de mi pregunta, sabemos que la pandemia del COVID-19 destacó la grave brecha de aprendizaje de nuestros estudiantes de kinder a 12 grado, que afecta no solo lo académico, sino también su salud socioemocional y su asistencia. La clave para cerrar esta brecha es a través de las tutorías de alta calidad. A través de las tutorías de alta calidad. Sabemos que las tutorías de alta calidad que está brindando LAUSD no ha podido ayudar a los padres a conectarse con los tutores. Queremos saber acerca de ustedes. Mi pregunta es, si ustedes fueran elegidas, ¿cómo trabajarían con el Departamento de Instrucción para mejorar el acceso de tutorías de alta calidad a las familias, incluidas las familias de IP, los aprendices de inglés, y asegurar los fondos adicionales más allá de ILOP?
Would you like me to ask the question in English? No? Graciela, 2 minutos.
Muchas gracias, Aida, por la pregunta. Es una de las cosas, las razones que peleamos juntos para asegurar que agarráramos tutoría de alta calidad en Huntington Park y en Southgate, porque Southgate también tiene la tutoría 1-a-1 en nuestros parques, ¿verdad? Era porque sabemos que todos los estudiantes aprenden diferente. Nuestros estudiantes con un IEP, con disabilidades, muchas veces necesitan más la atención 1-a-1 que desafortunadamente, porque en nuestras escuelas no tenemos todos los recursos y no tenemos todos los maestros y paraprofessionals, ayudantes que necesitamos, están atrasándose hasta más. El problema es que el distrito dio tutoría donde se tenían que meter los estudiantes en línea para poder accesar esa tutoría. Hablamos hace el rato de que muchas de nuestras familias no tienen Wi-Fi en sus casas. Yo propongo que tenemos que tener tutoría de alta calidad en todas nuestras escuelas, pero trabajar con nuestras comunidades también. Muchas veces nuestros estudiantes no quieren ir a la tutoría después de la escuela porque no quieren que otros los miren en la escuela recibiendo tutoría. Es de trabajar con nuestras comunidades y dar la tutoría en ciertos comunitarios, por ejemplo. En Huntington Park se llenó la tutoría rápido. Se asignaron más de 50 familias en el primer día. ¿Por qué? Porque hay la necesidad. Necesitamos entender que lo que los padres quieren es 1-a-1, pero acceso. Y desafortunadamente, cuando el distrito pone programas, se le hacen muy difíciles a muchas de nuestras familias porque es como si nos ponen barreras para poder recibir esos servicios. Tiene mi continuado apoyo para seguir abogando por tutoría especializada 1-a-1 con alta calidad en todas nuestras escuelas y trabajar con nuestras ciudades y nuestro condado para ver cómo podemos recibir esos recursos. Porque lo primero que quieren decir es no hay dinero. ¿Saben qué? Sí hay dinero para nuestros estudiantes.
Gracias por la pregunta. Sí, hay tutoría, claro, la tienen en línea, ¿verdad? Hay esa opción, pero eso no es lo que ayuda a todos nuestros estudiantes. Entonces, lo que tenemos que hacer es dar variedades y diferente tipo de tutoría, opciones de tutoría, porque a algunos niños sí les gusta en línea, pero algunos otros necesitan a una persona que esté allí ayudándole, especialmente en matemáticas o en química. Yo hablé con varios padres creo que fue en Southgate que hablamos, y una mamá me dijo, yo tenía un tutor, pero el tutor no le podía ayudar a mi hijo. Pero cuando ya tuvo el tutor que vino de la universidad, era un muchacho que estaba haciéndolo de un programa, ese estudiante sí le ayudó a mi hijo. Entonces yo creo que tenemos que hacer relaciones no solo con diferentes organizaciones, pero también con universidades, con colegios, con estudiantes que también quieren ayudar a nuestros estudiantes. Y debería de ser en los sábados también, no solo después de escuela. Usted mire a su hijo si tiene mucha energía para estudiar después de escuela. Muchos no, pero pueden ayudar con tarea durante la semana, y durante el fin de semana pueden dar clases para poder que ellos avancen o que lleguen al nivel que tienen que estar si están un poquito atrasados. También tenemos que estar seguros de que las personas que están dando la tutoría tengan experiencia en trabajar con estudiantes que tengan incapacidades, o sea, de aprendices. Tal vez ellos aprenden de diferente manera, y tenemos que estar seguros que la persona que está enseñando tenga esa experiencia, si no los niños se van a frustrar. Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias, Aida. Thank you all for staying. I know we are at time. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to the audience questions, but you heard from an array of stakeholders, and maybe they asked a question that you had in mind. We will make sure to share these questions with the candidates. We are now moving to closing remarks, so please stay put. Give us a couple more minutes. Each candidate will have 1 minute to provide your closing remarks, and we will start with Carla, and then we'll move with Graciela. So Carla, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank you for coming out today. You know, earlier on, I talked about my inspiration, and frankly, being in this space with you really inspires me. You all are parents and community members who care about your kids, who care about our schools, and let me tell you, I've met hundreds of voters who feel the same way. Even if they don't have kids in school, they want to be a part of it, so thank you. I want to share with you, like I said earlier, that part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I've been doing this work on the ground. And I expect that when I go into the school board, I'm going to continue working with you all, because that's how change is going to happen. I come from a movement that has been affecting change, working with families and community members to transform our schools. That's where I come from. I went on strike in 2019 and brought parents along with us. Darn it. Thank you.
You know, when I ran in 2019, I was told, step away. There's no way that anybody from the Southeast could ever serve in this seat. I'm standing here today with the possibility of being the first individual that lives in the Southeast to serve on that school board. I'm gonna tell you that the work that we've been doing together in Southeast LA to have a voice has been remarkable. I didn't decide to run for school board all of a sudden. I have been working at this for 18 years as an educator, 9 years as an elected official, and I will continue working on partnerships to provide opportunities to students that I didn't have and my family didn't have. It is time that we have a school board member that understands our communities. It is time that we have a school board member that's gonna make sure that we have quality education and equity across the board. I believe in public schools. I believe in all public schools. I would send my children to public schools. I'm Graciela Ortiz, and I'm here to serve you.
Want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Please, let's give them a hand because they have answered the call of service. And it is a big responsibility to be an elected official, and it's a big responsibility to be a board member because every single one of us are looking towards you to ensure that our kids have a bright future and the opportunities they deserve. I want to remind you before you leave a couple of announcements. Hay mucha comida. Sobró muchísima comida. Please take some food home. This is quinceañera style. Take those plates. You could take them to your families. 2, please, voten, vote. Your vote is su voto, su voz. Por favor, voten por ustedes, por su familia y por los que no pueden votar. And lastly, there are some measures that should be showing on the slide. We ask you, these are measures that impact families and schools here in LAUSD. We're not telling you how to vote, but we're telling you to please be mindful of those measures as you're voting. Exercising your right to vote November 5th. And thank you all the organizations that contribute to this amazing event. And thank you all for joining us. Que pasen buenas noches. Agarren su comidita y nos vemos pronto. Gracias.